paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's downright refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brainstorm Brewery. For those who don't know, this is a magic lifestyle podcast. We're sort of like the C-SPAN slash Breitbart slash every sort of just whatever your favorite news outlet is, whatever the one that rustles your jimmies when you're on your commute to work. We're that one. We're the one that holds a special place in your heart. We talk about Commander, we talk about Legacy, we talk about Modern, we talk about Pre-Modern, we talk about EDH, we talk about CEDH, we talk about Tiny Leaders. And I have my friend, my lovely co-host with me, Cass.
Hi everybody, Cass here.
We do not have Corbin, we do not have Jason. We're kind of doing a Squid Game thing. This is potentially the last episode of Brainstorm Brewery. Corbin and Jason died off last week in the Hunger Games style thing, so it's just the two of us. We're gonna duke it out tonight and see who comes out on top.
I'm gonna be really good at punching out that cookie or whatever the thing is. I didn't actually watch Squid Game. Yeah, there's like a Korean treat where you it's like a shape of like an animal or something, and it's like a sugar treat, and you like break off the edges. And if you didn't break off the edges cleanly, they like shot you. That's how Squid Game works. From what I understand, at least.
I knew it was like a Saw-esque Hunger Games thing.
Yeah. Mr. Beast did it, so clearly it's fine and ethical.
It's on the up and up. Yeah, we can do another one. It's all good. It's been cleared for YouTube.
Right.
So it's just the two of us today. We got the whole divorced parent vibe going on. Like, you don't know which co-host is going to be on. It's going to be Jason. It's going to be Corbin. It's going to be DJ. We like to mix it up developmentally for you as you go through those stages of Maslow's hierarchy and all that. It's good to keep you on your toes and just not know which parent is coming home that night. I speaking from experience.
As somebody who, my goal here is to create a cohesive product where you know what you're going to get each week, throwing you off your rhythm is a key part of that. Knowing that you're always going to be off your rhythm is how you know that you're in for a podcast of sorts.
It's how you stay alert. It's how you sleep with one ear open in the wilderness when you're Bear Grylsing it out there. You gotta... if you knew exactly what Brainstorm Brewery was going to be every week, you would just fall asleep on your drive and just veer off the road.
Honestly, speaking of Bear Grylls, Brainstorm Brewery is a podcast best enjoyed while drinking your own pee. It's true. It's just simply true. I can't speak from experience. I've never listened to the podcast, but I've been told. Discerning listeners love to drink their own pee.
Discerning or distilling?
Either or, really.
We'll column A, we'll column B. Okay. Speaking of column A and column B, I have a column A, Breaking Bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
Speaking of column A and column B, I have a column A, Breaking Bulk, and I'm going to put Cass's column B, Breaking Bulk, in the spreadsheet. That's how that's going to work. Breaking Bulk is a game. It's the first sort of Saw puzzle that we're doing tonight, where I'm going to name some attributes of a card, and that is a card that you should not leave in your bulk bin. It's a card that you should put in your not bulk bin. Don't use a binder. Binders are bad. And I'm going to say something like color and name, and not name. That's the opposite of what we're doing. And then Cass is going to try to guess it. And then there's going to be like an energy disc slowly going towards her leg, like in that one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! In Battle City.
I do know that one, actually.
It'll send her to the Shadow Realm if she fails to guess it in time. And I'm going to go get my magical Pandora hat on. So, this is a card I was very surprised. It does not have any reprints ever since when it was originally printed in 2008 in Shadowmoor. So
Shadowmoor.
We used to talk about how Shadowmoor used to be the band set. We used to not be allowed to pick cards for Breaking Bulk for this game because all of them were worth money. And so if it was a card from Shadowmoor, it's like, yeah, okay, great. They're all $4. Cool. Almost every card in Shadowmoor has been reprinted up at this point. Manamorphose is no longer $30. Reese the Redeemed is like $1.50. It's a different world now. This is a blue uncommon that has never been reprinted in its entire life.
Mono blue?
Mono blue. It's not hybrid. It's not any.
Shadowmoor blue uncommon. I'm gonna guess it's a merfolk. But I might be wrong about that. Is it like fallow sage or something?
It is not fallow sage. That's Lorwyn. But
Okay.
fair guess, like solid guess.
Is it no, not Marrow Reachery. It's Deep Channel Mentor.
No, I'm gonna take you off the Merfolk train right now.
Okay.
It's not Merfolk related.
Might be a fairy then.
It is kindred related.
Okay, it might be a fairy then. God, I do not know my Lorwyn Blue uncommons Shadowmoor Blue uncommons very well.
It's $1.69. Nice.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Fairy Swarm. This is the it's a member of a cycle. There are 5 of these. Drove of Elves is another one.
Yeah.
God, now I have to name all of them. Drove of Elves, Fairy Swarm,
Bogart something.
Cinder something is the black one. Kithkin something is the white one. But yeah, they're all star with a keyword, and they all have power and toughness equal to the number of that color permanent you control. So Fairy Swarm is just like probably usually like a 4-mana 6/6 flyer that just gets in there with all your fairy tokens. It's nothing special. It's just a card that I'm very surprised has dodged reprints up until this point. It seems like a shoe-in for a commander deck or some sort of intro deck or jumpstart kind of thing, because it's not even fairies you control, it's just blue permanents.
Right.
But yeah, like Shadowmoor has been reprinted a lot, and this one has survived.
It's a fun fact. I believe this cycle is a throwback to the Onslaught cycle of, like, the one that
Soulless one and Heedless one. Yeah,
Yep.
I can see that.
Which is, a very cool, like, spiritual, not a reprint, but modernization.
Retrain, yeah.
Speaking of things that care about creature types, potentially, my Breaking Bulk is a Wilds of Eldraine Black Rare.
Oh, come on.
So you gotta get me with the old cards, I gotta get you with the new ones.
Yeah, the turntables have turned. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I can name a card from 2006 and Corbin will be like, well, I don't know, man. That's from like 30 years ago or whatever. But like, Wilds of Eldraine, that is post Roka for me. So the machine's very good at telling me cards to play this end of the game. But Wilds of Eldraine Black, I don't know if I can name a black rare from this set. I don't know if I know Beseech the Mirror, that one's a mythic, but that's clearly not it. Black rare from Wilds of Eldraine that cares about creature types.
It doesn't necessarily care about creature types.
Probably does, though.
Maybe. It involves creature types.
I mean, most rares from Wilds of Eldraine are basically worthless because Questing Druid is the only good rare. So we'll start there. It's not the adventure that is Debtors now, because that's also mythic. You might name the card and I still will be confused. Shoot, I surrender.
It is Lord
Buzzsaw
Skitter, the
my
Sewer
light with
King.
chain energy. What is it?
Lord Skitter, the Sewer King. This is a 3-mana 3/3 legendary rat who every turn you make a 1/1 rat that can't block, and also exile a card from a graveyard. Card is like $2 on Direct and like $1 everywhere else. And I get these in bulk all the time.
You just named a Mountain Goat song and made up a card to mess with me.
Lord Skitter, Sewer King is not that far off from a Mountain Goat song. I can think of like 2 or 3 that are pretty close to that spiritually. A lot of songs about like the rats in the streets in Paris, it's very, very John Darnielle.
I didn't know this card existed.
This card's great. It's a limited bomb. It's playable in Standard, notably. You got an RCQ season coming up. And people love rats, even if they're not as good as they used to be, even though they get new cards all the time. But, yeah, people love rats, and Lord Skitter is legendary and kind of like a rat Rabblemaster. And, people do love the Rabblемasters.
Rattlemaster was right there.
I was trying to, like bounce the volleyball to you gently, as if you were a child needing a layup.
That 5-second dead silence we put in there was for JJ to add in an AI of Jason making a short joke.
I agree.
Lord Skitter the Sewer King. I think rats are kind of hitting the point like zombies, where they just have too many cards to make an EDH deck because you're obligated to put 20 rat colonies in there.
Right.
So any rat deck is like, you pick Relentless Rat or Rat Colony, you pick that fork in the road, and then it's like you pick 60 more cards instead of 80. I don't know.
And there's like not enough of them yet to build a deck without any of the rat colonies or relentless rats. It's like really good.
We also don't want to. Like, if you're building a rat colony, the first thing you want to do is like slam a Thrumming Stone and then roll the dice.
But like I feel like people, that's too normal now. People want to do the weird out there thing. So like I built a rat deck without any relentless rats or rat colonies. All of my rats are artisanal and hand-picked.
And you're only allowed to play it at like a coffee shop that serves them in like mason jars.
Correct, yeah. As we've established, mason jars are for hipsters.
Yeah. I can get behind that. Like, sure. I mean, standard play it. Yeah. This is definitely a card that I will put a bunch of Wilds of Eldraine cards into the machine because almost all of them are bulk, and then it'll spit out this, and I'll see it sell eventually. At some point, I'll like put it in a card key and buy list or something, and then I'll just like that's a Magic card that exists.
Yep. You'll have paid bulk rare price on it and probably get like $1 out of it or something. And that's, honestly, we take those.
Speaking of bulk rare pricing, the bottom has fallen out of Magic bulk. For the longest time, and by the longest time I mean probably close to 20 years, Magic bulk rares were 10 cents. They were the gold standard. You could trade a $15 card and be like, yeah, just give me 150 bulk rares. That'd be fine, and then you could pick those bulk rares for your Balefire Lieges. You could bootstrap your way up like your uncle did from the coal mine, and you could do a Magic finance that way. And that was how that was the streets you and I both grew up on. Nowadays, we have multiple large, very, very large vendors like Star City and the Gaming Company. And for those who don't know, the Gaming Company is one of the largest, I guess, proprietors or vendors on TCG Player Direct. They are often the single largest holder of quantity of individual cards on that platform, and they're almost always new cards. They're almost always recent box breaks. But if you're pricing your cards on your own TCG Player website and you're like, man, why is this one like $4 TCG low? I thought this was like a $6 card. And then you click on the live pricing and you see the Gaming Company has 1,600 copies of that price.
Yep.
And so the Gaming Company has decided to move on to greener pastures in some aspects of their business, and Star City also has a flammable warehouse full of bulk. Yeah, that is the adjective I would use to describe. And they've both of the owners of that store, or at least management, has posted in Facebook groups to buy and sell, selling Magic rares at like 8 cents a piece to 10 cents a piece, which is normally they're buying them at that price. Card Kingdom was always a steadfast dime a bulk rare vendor. And yeah, we're just seeing pallets of bulk being shipped off. Thoughts?
So it's weird because like I feel like obviously more packs are being opened than ever. More people are playing the game. But beyond that, there's just like more rares per dollar spent, I feel like. You buy Draft Booster, which is, $4.50 or something. You get 1 rare, maybe 2 if one's a foil, maybe 3 if there's a Modal DFC pack. You buy a Set Booster pack, you can get like, 1, 2, you can get up to 4 rares, right? Not to mention a Collector Booster where you're getting at least 2 non-foil rares, maybe even a Mythic, plus a number of foil rares. There's just so many more bulk rares in existence, and more cards become bulk all the time because of reprints. It just feels like there's just more bulk and nobody who really wants it, because bulk's kind of always just sort of been this like gold standard backing thing.
And the late game, I guess the end game of all the bulk, like if you watch those nature documentaries on like what happens to like a flower or something, and then it shows the life cycle of like, I don't know, like a tree or something, and then it ends up in like a pencil in some desk 10 years down the line. Like the end, you know what I mean? The end result, like the end funnel of that bulk is usually being sold on eBay or Amazon as a lot or as a repack or some form of like $2 for a repack on eBay, guaranteed 4 rares, and then there's a picture of a Mox Ruby in the listing that nobody's going to get.
Right.
And I don't know if Wizards has gotten better at getting that player onto some other form of pack, or if that's just style of distribution has become overwhelmed with the number of bulk rares. And it's like, I mean, Star City, I know they do that Amazon, eBay style of like instant collection. I don't know if they're just like,
right,
if their acquisitions are outpacing their sales that much, and it's like it's still a fine way to sell cards, but we just have a imbalance of numbers here.
Well, I think part of it is there's just too many people trying to get action. Like the collectibles boom of 2021 brought so many people into the industry, and because ultimately a lot of people who are in this industry aren't in it strictly for the monetary aspect. Part of it's because you enjoy card games and it's fun to do. Even if it's not the best decision for you, you'll stay in it. And I think there's just like an inundation of people sort of saturating the market, and I don't think bulk sells worse than it used to in bulk lots. I imagine it probably sells better, but there's just like now 100 more schmucks competing with you at any given time, and if you're the schmuck holding the most bulk, you're just in the worst spot, you know?
Machines have to have something to do with it too, right? Like,
yeah,
like you don't want to be the person buying bulk from somebody who has a machine, and you're
right,
somebody who got into the industry 2 years ago at the peak, and you're like, I'm gonna buy all these bulk rares. I watched some Rudy videos. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make some money. I've had TikTok downloaded, and my algorithm has told me what I need to be watching. We're not on TikTok. Brainstorm Brewery's not on TikTok. They're not learning the good stuff. And so then you just have this person who is buying bulk lots on eBay and whatever, and reselling and trying to resell and whatnot. And like bulk rares 5-10 years ago used to be, these were handpicked by somebody. There could be some mistakes in there if you're good enough and you're one of the first people to use a smartphone or something, or you're just very good at typing. Nowadays it's like, these went through the machine, there is nothing in here over 10 cents retail.
right.
So then you have your, we'll sell 600,000 bulk rares at 7 cents a piece, and you're gonna get 800 copies of the worst one that nobody wants, that don't even go in repacks.
One thing that's worth noting, I think it's even specifically mentioned in the gaming company's post on Facebook, that you can expect between 50 and 300 copies of any given rare in their bulk rare lots.
And they're not going to be mixed up.
Yeah, it's all going to be sorted.
Yeah, that is sometimes the saving grace of bulk, is you want to pass it on to somebody who will spark joy from just looking through cards. And that's how, what I do a lot of the time is my bulk lots that I posted on Facebook and Craigslist, I sell them out of my office, and people can come pick them up, and they're sort of like your dealer's first free hit kind of thing of like, I've had plenty of lifetime customers who are just
right,
first time met them on Craigslist or Facebook ad, and it's like, hey, here's $100 worth of bulk, like, go have fun, get back into Magic with your kid, and then they're texting me or emailing me every week for the Commander deck, and it's that was the hook that would get them back in. But you can't do that with this. I don't know who the target customer is. The target customer is the trash can for this, I think.
Yeah, and not to mention, it is going to be that time of year where, as a business, writing off losses is something that is often good for your books. Not to say it's something that I endorse or that is good, but having this stuff at the end of the year is not a great thing for your taxes. And so they're incentivized to get rid of some amount of this assets. Or even, if December 30th rolls around, I wouldn't be surprised if some of this doesn't just get thrown away.
Yeah, it is a white elephant for sure, where you just... The money has been... The stone has been squeezed of all the blood.
Right. I think we're going to eventually get to a point where the only bulk that's actually worth buying for a vendor is bulk that came from a player at a store. Like, if I'm at an event and someone comes up and says, "Hey, I have some 5 rows of bulk for you," the kind of person who's going to an event, bringing in like a dolly worth of bulk and dropping it off at the booth, that person's picked it hard. That person might have even machined it. And there's sort of just like this vertical movement of like truly picked bulk kind of keeps rising up, and the unpicked stuff just kind of like ceases to exist because the acquisition of it, I feel like, is slower too.
Yeah, that's such an awkward question to get at events too, is like, do you guys buy bulk? because those exact words in that exact order are both asked by person who just did one draft and person with pallets. It's like, so you have to ask the follow up of like, what do you mean? What do we got here? Do we have like, is there a van waiting outside, or like do you just have like a one row of stuff you've drafted over the years? Because one of these can be worked with.
One of my favorite things to say to somebody at a show is how many you got or how much you got, because so I had somebody come up and be like, hey, are you guys buying this card? And it was like it was a weird niche card. I don't remember what it was. And I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, cool, I have 300 of them. And I had to be like, whoa, buddy, I'll buy the first 12 at that price. But then like, I don't want that. But if you just ask how many you got and they say 300, you just get to be like, well, I know that you're incentivized to sell. Why do you have 300 of this? There was a great example of it with Pokemon a while back, where there was a card that everyone thought was like super rare. And then someone would just like had a sealed factory box of them, some promo. I was like, I have 4,000 of them. And it's like, well, if you didn't post 4,000 of them all at once, you probably could have gotten a real price on them. But now we know there's 4,000 more of these entering the market. Like, why'd you do that?
Oh, somebody did that with Magic. I don't remember who it was because they were just a name on a Facebook feed for 2 seconds for me. But they were, it was like 2 obscure 7th edition foils that they had multiple hundreds of copies of. And they wanted the retail price. And they were like, I'll cut you a deal. I'll do like 70% off of the retail price. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, you gave up the ghost.
Fun story about me. I used to be a huge collector of the card Basking Root Walla. And at one point I owned like a couple of 5 rows of the card. And at one point I also owned around 400 or 500 foil copies of the card from Torment. And I just been collecting them over the years for like quarters and dollars. And that card eventually became like, I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks when I started selling them. And I would just sell like 8 a week. I would just like find a buy list that was buying them and sell them. Because if I just dropped all of them at once at a vendor, then they wouldn't pay me anything. I think I'm down to like owning 20 of them or maybe 40 of them, and I'm fine with that. But if you are someone who just has that much of something that like doesn't exist, like it's just low supply, and you just try and dump it all at once, all you're doing is telling the world, hey, this isn't rare.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are not rare anymore, we have Magic cards going from $60 to $3 over the course of months. And I know that cheaper Magic cards are good for players in most contexts in certain ways. But it is a less good look for the game when Wizards makes something that is very, very cool and obscure and the rarest version of something for the collectors, and then makes that version of thing that thing terrible.
Right.
And specifically, we are talking about the re-release of Lord of the Rings 2 Electric Boogaloo. They drastically increased the supply of the Surge foils.
Yeah.
And these are Surge foils that basically all were like at least a couple $100.
I remember on release weekend, my store opened up a Surge foil, the Party Tree Great Henge. And I got a little over $1,000 for it. And as of right now, the Surge foil is like $60. And it wasn't that I like oversold it to the person at the time. I was one of the first people to sell. The first copy sold for like almost $2,000. And before the reprint was announced, the card was like several $100s still. And that's just a falling knife. And who is supposed to catch that? Like, the people opening booster boxes aren't opening value and they feel like they got ripped off. The stores can't open booster boxes. And if the stores can't open booster boxes for singles and customers can't buy them without feeling like they're getting ripped off, the boxes aren't selling, and all of a sudden stores just have another dead product. And I don't think this is as bad as Commander Masters was, but like, these $300 to $400 collector boxes are heavily subsidized by serialized cards, and it is just becoming more and more apparent.
And even the serialized cards, people are going to take bloodbaths on when they realize that the demand is not as high as you would think it is. There's this player expectation of like opening a masterpiece or opening a expedition and having people message you for it, just saying, hey, I want that, I need that, I need all of that. And the serialized stuff is just not as in demand when you make so much of it. Like when there's 500 copies of Dina's Soul Steeper and you feel like you got the 1 in 500 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory ticket, when it is 1 of 500 fourth 80 legends in the set.
Right.
And then you're a lot less, but for a commander that so few people care about, and then you need to find the one person who wants that legend, and like inspiring statuary is not sparking joy when you get number 72 of it.
Right. And one thing that I think is worth noting is a lot of people are saying that these being 1 of 100 for the Lord of the Rings thing makes them more rare. But this product is also just printed less, and so it's roughly still, based on napkin math, it's roughly still the same amount of them given the amount of product produced. If that makes sense. Like the amount of dollars spent on product will equate to the same number roughly of serialized cards.
Right, because there are Brothers Wars boxes sitting on shelves right now that have some number of serialized cards in them. But we don't have all 500 of Swiftfoot boots out in circulation. It's just mathematically impossible.
Right, and we're gonna have. There's basically 5 times as much Brothers War as there is of this set. Is kind of the idea. Not exactly, but like that's sort of the rough napkin math.
Right. So I'm working at SCG Con Pittsburgh this weekend, and we're gonna have some person walk up with a Surge Foil Great Henge, remembering that price from May, and being like, "Hey, can I get like $80 for this?" And then you swing the laptop around. It's like, work with me here. Let's work out this math problem together on what I'm supposed to buy it and sell it for, and still be able to pay $10,000 for this booth.
Right. One thing that I think is really cool about the serialized cards, and this is kind of a non sequitur, but also the serialized 100 of 100, the One Ring, is the last One Ring printed, and the One Ring, the one of one that Post Malone has, was the first one printed, so you could theoretically own the first and the last ring printed. I don't know if that's actually like true with the times they were printed, but people were talking about that, and to me that's like, as somebody who loves Lord of the Rings, I think that'd be cool as hell to have the first and the last one. Just throwing that out there. But that kind of leads into like, the only serialized cards I actually care about are the ones that have truly cool numbers. Like, for the Soul Rings from Lord of the Rings, like Dwarven Ring number 7, probably the best one. Not actually, because like 1 will still hold premium, 69 and 420 will, or whatever, but like 7 for me is the cool one because there were 7 Dwarven Rings made.
And like, I mean, this kind of goes into the Doctor Who thing where they made like 508 of the 8 Doctor Who. It's like, who cares? Just make 8, or just make like 80, or just make like 88 of them. Not 88 of them. That's no good. But like, the point stands.
I think like, honestly, I don't mind the 508 for the Doctors, because if there were only 8 of them, it would just be having to hear a Magic player complain about how they're doing the one of one basically over Doctor Who cards. I would actually have a psychotic break and just like run into the street naked and just like scream at traffic. I wouldn't be able to handle hearing my customers talk about that. I would go fully insane. So I'm glad it was 500 made. No, I think that'd be terrible. I don't know if it'd be cosmically good for the game, but it would be miserable for me personally, and I'm what matters here.
I do think that reducing the number of serialized cards down to 100 is better than 500. That is a step in the right direction. It was an unforced error, and so like unscrewing themselves for that is not like gold star worthy. You don't like, but like it's cooler to have legendary creatures with 100/100 on them than it is 100/500.
Yeah. I think that, honestly, the problem with only doing 100 of 100 is you don't get a 420, you know? That's like honestly where I'm at with it. Ragavan 420 exists, and it's like the coolest thing.
I'm gonna see it this weekend in the case.
I know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Eventually somebody will maybe buy it.
And they're going to pay, I believe it's listed for $6,969.
Yes.
Which is, honestly, the best thing that could have came out of serialized cards is a cheeky meme.
Sure. And I don't expect this particular segment of the podcast to, like, go viral and have people complaining about, oh, you don't want Magic cards to be cheap. You want Magic cards to be expensive because you're a vendor, and that's not how it works. I am happy when $80 cards that don't sell get crushed to $20. I am happy when $50 cards that don't sell get crushed to 10, but it has to be gradual. And you can't force stores to just hold this bag and continue to try, like you said, catching falling knives. Like, we can't have stores spending 5-digit figures on their allocation of Lord of the Rings and then just not be able to pay employees and judges and rent. It's great when cards are reprinted progressively, slowly, and like cards taper off.
Right.
Like, it's cool. Oh, $10 this year, $8 next year, $6 the year after that. Like, the list is a very good way to do that.
Yeah. Agreed. It's one of those things where I think margin on Lord of the Rings collector boxes for the re-release is like $35 or something. Like, it costs stores, I think, like $270 or $275 or something at distro. And TCG low on it was like $315 if you're lucky. And like, Magic cards have to be worth something if WotC's going to charge that for products, because as a store, if we sell for $315, we paid $275 on it. As a brick and mortar, that's like barely anything. That's like barely a profit.
Yeah.
And like, WotC is going to keep charging increasing prices for things, which means that singles have to be worth something, or this just doesn't work.
You can play on your Amazon warehouse floor.
And I'm sure some people will, long after Magic is dead, people will continue to make custom cards and print them out and have fun with it. But it won't be me, and it won't be today, and it won't be tomorrow, and it'll probably be a long time from now, but it'll be a sad day.
Yeah.
One of my favorite WotC games, actually, the Star Wars Miniatures game, they lost the licensing for Star Wars in like 2010, I want to say, and so they stopped making the game. And I'm pretty sure even to this day, there are people just like on forums making custom sets that by and large are like fine. I can't imagine they're nearly as well balanced as the rest of the game was.
Well, at this point, they spent more time on the game than the devs have. Like, by this point, 14 years later, they've put in the hours if they've been doing this for 14 years.
I mean, I guess it really is like a Shakespeare's monkey situation, right? Like, it doesn't matter how good they are at game design. I'm not saying they're not good. They've just put enough hours that, like, regardless, they're probably going to have made some good stuff. And I assume they've gotten better, so their things are probably just keep getting better. But, like, that's what ends up happening when a game doesn't have a way to make money. It's like you lose your licensing because it costs too much or something, and, like, you can't monetize it.
Yeah.
It also feels a little bit like this sort of increasing cost of boosters and, like, ramming reprints down our throats, and the push for direct consumer products like Secret Layers, and the push for Amazon getting the most product of the limited things, really does feel like WotC is just kind of trying to squeeze out stores. And I know that's probably not true, and it's probably just the paranoid part of me talking, but everything about it just feels terrible.
We have a pre-release this weekend, and you can't pre-release at Amazon, so I guess that's a thing.
That's
Maybe.
the one that we still got going for us, yeah.
So you have a pre-release this weekend. You're a store owner. Not rivals of Ixalan, rivals of the Lost Caverns of the Ixalans. Thoughts?
Pre-sales are pretty good. The set looks fun. I'm somebody who cares a lot about playing Magic, and there are at least 2 or 3 cards that I care about for Modern, probably. Cavern of Souls coming into Pioneer is exciting. Going into Standard RCQ season, like, Magic sets are really good these days. Like, just the cards are fun. For the most part, the formats are balanced. I can't really complain too much about that, but my problems are all sort of like structural industry things. I love this. Wilds of Eldrin was one of my favorite limited formats of all time.
Design-wise, things are at an all-time high, for sure.
I think for most players, that's all that matters. Especially pre-release level players. That's all that matters.
You want to have fun. They're not there to spike it and make the money. I was in Salt Lake City a couple weeks ago, and there were not many people in the room, but the people who were in the room who were playing Magic with Wilds of Eldrin cards did seem to be having fun, and then coming back and then trying to trade in their cards that they opened so that they could just keep running back events because they were enjoying the set. Small sample size, but there you go.
I really do think if you look at the, I think it was the world's top 8 for Standard, all the decks were like pretty cool. There was like a green-black mid-range deck that was very Jundy. There was a Bant control deck that Greg Orange played that was like kind of draw go with sweepers, very classic control. There was a ramp deck, and I think there was an aggro deck. It's like, you just kind of got it all in standard right now. It feels really cool, and I'm really excited to see what happens with the push for competitive play.
I hope we are not just, as the kids say, copium-ing.
I think I might be, but you know what? If I am, I'll live in that happy delusion for a couple more months.
So one of the most powerful cards from the Lord of the Rings to Electric Boogaloo is Legolas's Quick Reflexes. And I said that slowly because the first 4 times I tried to take this, I didn't know. But it was one of the first cards previewed from this set. Everybody saw that it said 1 mana, and then everybody saw that it had Split Second, and then there's an entire Lord of the Rings book on the card. There's just so many words, and it does all of the things, and none of them are downsides. There's no, like, pay 1,000 life points or offer your soul to the Shadow Realm contract. It is just all upside on this 1 mana card.
The real problem is it's 1 mana, so it still gets countered by Chalice of the Void. If they made it 2 mana, it'd be even better. But, so the thing about this card is it not only untaps your creature, not only gives them reach, not only gives them hexproof on an uncounterable 1 mana spell, but also if they tap this turn, they deal damage equal to their power to another target creature. That is to say,
it's not fight. It is just
right. It's a punch. It's not a fight. That is to say that if
wait, did you steal that from a Marvel movie? It's not a fight. It's a punch. That sounds like a Marvel movie quote.
I was thinking of the scene in Inglourious Bastards where Eli Roth's character, the Bear Jew, says to the Nazi he's about to kill, 2 hits, I hit you, you hit the ground. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
But, we all think of different things.
I'm thinking that this is a very good card, and I am wondering if the standard for Universes Beyond power level is higher than regular Magic cards. I know the One Ring exists. I know when it came out several months ago, people were talking about if it was bannable. It turned out it wasn't at the time. It didn't even make the cut. Like, it didn't win the Pro Tour. It lost, but I know that Corbin has been on this podcast a few more times. Like, he's been on once or twice since the One Ring came out, I think. He guessed every now and again. But he had his little insider conversation with a Wizards employee while he was working the Pro Tour, and allegedly they had said they would be fine with banning the One Ring if it were problematic, and that being a Universes Beyond card would not be a deciding factor if the card got banned.
That feels like such a PR answer to me.
It does. I get it, but
But, on the other hand, in the next set, they did print a better draw engine, so the One Ring's not even the best draw engine in Modern anymore. It's fine. Up the Beanstalk's the better card.
Yeah, what's 1 ring against 2 beans? It's fine. Everything's fine. But I would agree that it would be a PR answer if it was on Mark Rosewater's Tumblr. Saying it in partial confidence from an anonymous source to a employee at the Pro Tour, without any way to trace it back to who said it, I feel like has a little bit more oomph behind it. But
I really feel like they will ban it, but they had to wait until the Lord of the Rings re-release came out. They got to give it a couple months, because imagine if they had banned the One Ring in October and then this re-release Lord of the Rings collector boosters came out. The best card in the set still is the One Ring. The most expensive card in the set still is the One Ring. There's 2 new treatments for the One Ring, plus 3 actually. There's a Surge Foil now too. The set would be a total bomb if that had happened. There was no shot it was going to get banned before then.
And it was in bundles. It was the cards you were guaranteed to get, which is one of the reasons. I mean, that kind of goes back to our conversation about why it is bad for them to make the coolest version of a thing less cool. Is it's very good for there to be a $30 version of the One Ring, a $60 version of the One Ring, and then a $800 version of the One Ring, and then a Post Malone only version of the One Ring. Those are all fine gradients, as long as they are each visually distinct, have a appropriate rarity tier. 4, I think, is a nice sweet spot of levels and dials to turn on that card. It doesn't scale well past that. I mean, none of us like having 17 versions of the One Ring to keep track of, because then you get customer misconceptions and you get wrong orders being set. There's there is an upper limit to the number of variants you can have for a card, but the overall point is it's cool to have a cheaper version of the One Ring, which is what we had.
Right. I mean, the One Ring is still like $30 or $40. I saw a buy list today. It was paying $45 on the non-bundle versions of the One Ring. And it literally got reprinted yesterday. Or 3 days ago or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, that card is ubiquitous. It's cool. People who don't care about Magic kind of care about the card. I think it's really, really hard pressed to ban it. Now, if Orcish Bowmasters was oppressively powerful, I could see that one getting banned way more easily. Being a rare, not being like the flagship card of the set. And I think this time next year, I could see the One Ring getting banned if it needed to. I would not be surprised to see that happen. But like, what happens when we get the Final Fantasy set next year? And, you know, the Cloud card is wreaking havoc on Modern and Legacy, and they have to like Oko unprint it. They're not going to do that. Like, Square Enix is notorious for not letting their crossovers get nerfed because like they want the thing to be the coolest thing possible. In Smash, Minecraft Steve has not had any nerfs or any sort of like debuffs, and it's just a problematically powerful character because Microsoft is like, well, no, we don't want our guy to be worse. We want it to be the best character. Like, what happens when we get the Dark Souls crossover and I think Miyazaki's the name of the guy who's in charge of it, but not the other Miyazaki, not the Ghibli Miyazaki, but a different Miyazaki. And he's like, you can't make the Gaping Dragon weaker, people. The Gaping Dragon has to be powerful. Like, what happens then?
Then it will battle against Cloud Strife, and there will be... If everything's broken, nothing is? Question mark?
That's literally like what happened with the One Ring, right? The One Ring was broken, and of the Beanstalks more broken. At what point do we just like accept that we're playing a slightly different game mechanically? And whether or not that's good or bad is not something I'm here to say.
Well, there are a lot of free spells being thrown around and a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Comparisons being made of mana is not a resource in Modern anymore. It is just card advantage. Like Commandeer spiking 4 times to its previous price. The Commandeer was a Commander card.
Right.
Now it's a Modern card because in 2018 going -3 was bad, and now you're paying for it with 2 beans.
Yep.
Not mana, just beans.
If you get a 3rd bean, you're up.
If you get a 3rd bean, you're up is the name of the episode.
And if you're in a bean mirror and you steal their bean, that's basically a break even because you get the bean and a card, and then the next thing you cast also recoups cards, and then
that's investing in magic beans.
Right. If you play at your beans, they'll grow into more powerful card advantage. And you know, speaking of cards that trigger up the beanstalk and make mana totally trivial, I have a great pick of the week this week that does both those things.
Okay.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
It's an Aspiring Spike approved card. It is Timeless Lotus. It is the key card in his new Primeval Titanless Amulet deck that plays Urza Saga to find Amulet of Vigor, copies Amulet of Vigor with Mycosynth Gardens, plays Timeless Lotus, makes a bunch of mana, plays Golos, plays Lotus Field. But also Timeless Lotus is 5 mana and triggers up the Beanstalk. You play a Cultivator Colossus with an Amulet of Vigor in play, the game is over. I was watching the deck get played earlier. It sounds very battlecruisery. It sounds very silly. It's probably pretty close to as powerful, maybe not as consistent as the Amulet Titan deck we know and love or hate. But it's also just way cooler.
This sounds like what Wizards wanted Standard to be when they printed Golos and Field of the Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that if you I watched a game where he on turn 3 had 3 Amulet of Vigors in play, because on turn 1 he played 1 off of Saga. Turn 2, he played Mycosynth Garden and copied it, and turn 3 got another one off of Urza Saga. And played a Bounce Land, then played a Timeless Lotus and made 15 mana, and then played a Golos and activated Golos, and then cast an Emrakul. And I was like, that's my pick of the week. Timeless Lotus.
Timeless Lotus is like $10 right now. Buy lists average around 6 to 8. I agree that it is a harder card to reprint. I don't think it's something they can just jam in a commander deck. It is mythic. And it is over a year old at this point, closing in on 2 years old.
It also notably doesn't have a showcase treatment, which means it wasn't in collector boosters as a non-foil.
Okay.
It also wasn't in the Jumpstart for that set because the Jumpstart decks were all monocolor.
Those are both very annoyingly invisible traits that require a lot of knowledge about how products are made nowadays to be able to track quantity of printing. And you're not wrong. Like, none of those are saying you're wrong. Those are both saying you're very right, you're very smart. It's just like, those are not axes we are used to using to determine whether or not something is a good pick. But they're very, very relevant. That's
the world we live in. Do you remember Sword of Fortune Frontier originally had no additional printings besides, like, normal and foil? Because there was no step and complete of it. There was no Phyrexian what-if thing. It was just Sword of Fortune Frontier and then a foil Sword of Fortune Frontier. Now there's the oil slick version from the complete bundles, but, like, that's also still it. These are things that, as a vendor, as somebody who's doing armchair MTG finance, somebody who's trying to play the game for cheaper, you have to care about these things, and it's really annoying, but if you can care about them and you can remember them, like, it's helpful.
And it gives you a big knowledge gap over everybody else who is not paying attention to that, because there are so few people who are willing to take the LSAT of what's in this product articles.
Right. I mean, as somebody who's used to looking at those articles, sometimes it still melts my brain when I'm reading the breakdown of a collector pack.
Yeah, that is not something I have ever delved too much into, because my business model is mostly resale and not opening packs. But my pick of the week is from packs that were opened in 2005 and also has 0 reprints. Both of my picks are just reprintless completely. They are reprint virgins. And this is a card that is very close to my heart. I played this in Modern a very long time ago. Congregation at Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
It is green, white instant. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and reveal them. Shuffle your library and put those cards on top of any order. It is triple worldly tutor. You pay 3 more mana, 3 times as much mana. You get 3 times as many creatures. This has dodged, like I said, just every single. There's no list printing. There's no mystery booster. There's no promo pack. There's no commander deck. There's no from the vault or commander collection. It is just original Ravnica. Now, I mean, this card has been $3 for a very, very long time. It's a little closer to $4 or $5 now, and that's kind of why I'm picking it, is because it's very good in an upcoming commander, and that is Gishath. And he's upcoming, but he's an older commander from original Ixalan, but they're reprinting him, and there's good reason, because he's very, very popular. People want to cast dinosaurs, and they want to make sure that when their Gishath deals damage, that it hits the most number of dinosaurs. And this is the best way to do that, is to pick your 3 best dinosaurs in the deck in response to Gishath's trigger. Hold on, let me stack the deck real quick, and then you have your Polyraptor plus your thing that triggers its damage, and there's probably some form of infinite you can go just with Congregation at Dawn and dinosaurs. And if they don't put this in something, if they don't blindside you with a printing for this, like I know, what was it? Rooftop Storm was one that was kind of rough, because it was like, if this doesn't get hit, zombie precon baby, Innistrad Midnight, but then it got reprinted.
Right.
Congregation at Dawn is very, very, very rare, very hard to find. There are definitely fewer copies of this than the One Ring in existence, I'll tell you that. And
I saw somebody playing this card in Modern recently with Vesuvan Drifter from March of the Machine Aftermath, which is a blue and 2 colorless for a 2/4 flyer. It says you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and at the beginning of each combat you may reveal the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, it becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, except it has flying. What a world we live in.
So,
what a world.
Remember how I said I played this card in Modern forever ago?
Mm-hmm.
My combo was you go turn 1 Bird or Noble Hierarch. Turn 2 you cast Skill Borrower, which is a card that I still own several hundred copies of because I loved it, and it was a bulk rare from Shards of Alara. And I saw an article on legit MTG, maybe? Or some website of that nature of somebody playing this in Modern. And the combo was, at the upkeep of your turn 3, you cast Congregation at Dawn. The top card becomes Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker.
Yep.
Skill Borrower is not legendary, which means that you can make 10,000 tapped copies of itself, because tap, copy itself, tap, copy itself, tap, copy itself. And then you draw your card for the turn of Kiki Jiki, and now your top card is Mog Fanatic. Have fun.
That's kind of sick.
And the backup plan is all of those cards going to the graveyard and slamming in Necrotic Ooze and hoping for the best.
I loved Magic in that era. I remember when Necrotic Ooze got printed, Extended was still a format people were playing.
Yep.
And one of my favorite decks of all time in all formats in the history of Magic was an Extended, after they got rid of, when it was Future Sight through, I want to say like Scars block? Yeah, a Future Sight through Scars was what Extended was. And it was like Fauna Shaman, Vengevines, Quill Spike, Devoted Druid, and Necrotic Ooze.
Yeah.
That had to be one of the coolest decks ever. What a take me back to Quill Spike being a card I was excited to play. Remember Quill Spike, DJ?
I do, and I'm gonna ask you: is the TCG Player market price of Quill Spike over or under $1?
Oh god. So I think Quill Spike has a reprint somewhat recently in a Commander deck, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna say it's over $1, but that's because I'm hopeful. Call it copium.
It is under, but just barely. 84 cents, but it also does not have a reprint. This is another... We have found cards in Magic. Wizards employees, close your ears. That these have not been printed yet. They have not gotten hit. You can get foils of Quill Spike for like $4, and I mean this is a bonus pick of the week. I think we can both.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly we've both just talked about how emotionally invested in this card we are. So take this
Right.
with a little bit of a grain of salt. But this is clearly a card that removing a counter from a creature as a cost has high potential for infinites. I mean,
Right.
Quill Spike Devoted Druid is an OG. That's a classic. But like there is design potential with the 6,000 new cards a year that are being made, that one of them will go infinite with Quill Spike again. And if you have a brick of these, then you are a very happy person.
It's also one of those things that every time WotC sort of revisits the well of -1/-1 counters, the commander deck that comes out of it is always very popular. Hapatra is very popular. Scorpion God was popular. Kolrath Knight is still worth money because of how popular Scorpion God is, right?
Yes.
So,
People like breaking out their dice.
yep. It's even more fun when you get to put the dice on your opponent's creatures. Sometimes. I think so. I'm a sick person, though, So, up next is everybody's favorite segment of the podcast, but just before we get there, we have to do an ad read. DJ?
If you've listened to this entire podcast and not shut it off yet and not fallen asleep in your car, that can only be thanked by the wonderful people at MTG Stocks. MTG Stocks is the best place to go to keep track of your card prices, keep track of your collection value. It's where we find a lot of our picks of the week. We use the data on the premium side. We check monthly interests. We check how cards are quickly moving back and forth. We check Card Kingdom's buy list very quickly with one click. We can check on the penny stocks. We can check on underpriced cards. You can even set up alerts on your phone to be lazy and not need to pay attention as much as you should. And that's what this game is all about, is spending money to pay less attention so that you can actually focus on the things that you want to be doing. MTG Stocks allows you to do all of that very easily with the premium subscription. And they give us money to pay our editor so that you can hear a podcast and learn more about Magic and why they decided to make more Surge foils of Lord of the Rings. But I'm going to go on to the next ad before I get too mad about that. Coalesce Apparel and Design. You want to get the brain knowledge. You want to stay warm while you keep your brain knowledge. We're heading into the winter season, and you should pick up a shirt that has Cass's face on it, and then you should pick up a hoodie with Cass's face on it, and then you should yell at Corbin on Twitter to get on that next shirt design at Coalesce Apparel and Design, because it's really cool. I promise. I've been promising that a lot. I know I'm like the divorced dad kind of vibe, where I just like promise something and then eventually it happens. But you were like, you didn't say when you were gonna do it, but like, yeah.
It's a very divorce-heavy episode.
This has nothing to do with the McDonald's closing in my childhood hometown, which is where like all of the divorced kids in that town pass off for custody. So like, nothing to do with that at all. Not not any sort of subconscious reason. But
People are asking a lot of questions that should be answered by why this has nothing to do with the weird abandoned child McDonald's shirt.
and that's the design on Coalesce. You spoiled it. Like,
My chair broke. All right, this is a great ad read.
we're getting those divorcee shirts, and shirts maybe. If you want shorts, we'll get them on Coalesce. That's the podcast. The part where Cass was like, "This is the best part of the podcast." This is where it ends.
This is everyone's favorite part when it's over. And finality is what makes the journey worthwhile, because if it went on forever, it'd be like eating candy till you got sick. So cherish what you've had, and be excited for next week. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Corbin and Jason may or may not be back. We may or may not do the Corbin's dead bit again, as JJ fades this out slowly until they can't hear my voice anymore.
JJ, don't